Good evening, everybody. Welcome to CW Live. My name is Chris Webb, Head of Communications at the CW. Delighted to be joined. You can see on the screen on your left-hand side our Deputy General Secretary, Acting Andy Fury. Hi, Andy. How are you doing?
Evening, everybody.
And we've got, of course, the General Secretary, Dave Ward. Evening, Dave.
Yeah, hi, everybody.
So, I think you all know the score. You can see the title of the session. We have strike action tomorrow and we have strike action on Thursday. Again, we have made significant efforts to try and resolve a dispute. Dave and Andy are going to take you through those. Those efforts have been rejected out of hand by Royal Mail Group once again. And I think we're going to have to set out today just how important it is that you continue to do exactly what you're doing, which is support the strike in unbelievable numbers. We're going to take you through exactly what's happened in the last 48 hours and some of the key moments. But then basically, we're going to ask you to do what you, as I said, what you've been doing, which is to support the strike action and turn up to the picket lines and the supporters lines in massive numbers tomorrow and Thursday. But first of all, let us know where you're watching from. Let us know you support the strike. We'll get some of that up on screen. While you're doing that, I'm going to ask Dave Ward, General Secretary, to set the scene. Over to you, Dave.
Yeah, okay. Hi, everybody. First of all, I want to say a huge thanks for the amount of people that turned out on Friday at the rally, the national rally. I think it was an historic day for postal workers, our parcel force members, fleet members. Everybody was out in really great numbers. And to feel and see the solidarity that was coming through, it's days like that that are going to keep us going in this dispute. And it's never been more important that we continue to see the need to back the union, to back your fellow workers, and to make sure that we keep going in this dispute. I know that's hard. Because the employer, I think this is without doubt the most oppressive employer that we've ever seen in the history of Royal Mail. Some of the things that they're doing at the moment to our members make us angry, make you angry. The way that they're making you feel when you're at work, let alone strike action, the days that you're at work, we know they're doing everything possible to break your spirit. And what I'd say to you all is that days like Friday and that feeling of solidarity that was there, where we elevated this dispute and people showed the country that we also care about the service. We're the people here who are fighting for the future of Royal Mail, not just our own members' jobs, and certainly not just about pay. Then it's that feeling that we've got to continue now, because they can't see through their plans with a workforce that is completely against them. And if that takes us into the new year, when we need to reballot, then we'll have to do that. We don't want to burn people out. We know how difficult it is, but we have got to see through the strikes. I just want to say a huge thank you. It's so privileged to be, elected as your leaders, myself, Andy, all of the national executive, postal executive members, to know that we're representing such a great group of workers. And personally, I felt overwhelmed by the level of support. It's almost a feeling that you are saying to us that you're listening to what we're saying when we're on the media, when we're getting the opportunity to put our case, and you're almost saying that we're your voice. And that's such a great privilege. I hope we can continue to do you proud. We will do that again tomorrow, because the cause that we've got here is absolutely the right one. And, if you was taking stock of this at the moment, what I'd say to you all is that I think there's a couple of real fundamental issues here that we just simply cannot walk away from and cannot give up on. And it's about, one, how the employer is it's not just about whether they give us job security. They clearly want a completely different resourcing model for the future. The things that we've put to them in the last 24 hours, following some exchanges over the weekend, any decent employer would have said, yeah, we'll go with that. But what it tells us is that what they're looking to do, without any shadow of a doubt, is rapidly change the resourcing model in this business. And they want to move to a mixture of these owner drivers, self-employed workers, new entrants, and they want to keep on agency workers. They've got around 11,000. We're not talking here about the ones who are in to mitigate against the strike action. Employers, unfortunately, do that. We're talking about a resource that has become part of the working core of Royal Mail. And it's not unreasonable for us on your part to defend your jobs for the future, to make it clear to Royal Mail that we need a proper job security agreement, and they should be laying off those people in advance of laying off our members and giving us that job security. So, that's the first point that I think is clearly staring us in the face here, that we can never reach an agreement on in the way that they're trying to resource the business going forward in place of you. The second issue that's forming is around their proposals to introduce later starts, but it's much more significant than that, and it's clear to us that they see that as a major step towards abandoning daily deliveries, abandoning the universal service, and turning Royal Mail into this parcel courier. And there's nothing we hear from them. Whenever we exchange with them in meetings, and are we serious about an agreement? Are we going to get an agreement? We test each other's thinking. It always comes down to those couple of fundamental issues that they keep putting forward in a way that shows us that they're not serious about maintaining Royal Mail as a public service. They're not serious about maintaining the universal service, and they just want to turn us into a gig economy style parcel courier. So, we're not in the place where we're going to agree that. We need your support tomorrow and Thursday. And obviously we've got the strikes as well on the 23rd and 24th. In the meantime, we'll continue to try and, find ways forward. What we did put to the company, I can share this with you, yesterday evening after a meeting with a postal executive where, we were all in a place where we continue to look at every conceivable way to try and reach an agreement. That's our job as well, and you'd expect us to do that. So we put to them a joint statement last night, which would have seen us being prepared to suspend the strike action on tomorrow and Thursday, and allow for an intensive period of negotiations to try and conclude a deal by the 22nd of December. We obviously asked them to commit to a number of things as part of that would have meant significant progress. We asked them to give us the proper job security agreement that we're looking for. We asked them to confirm that they are not going to abandon the AM delivery period, and that they would be willing to look at a completely different approach rather than their plan, which we think will be a disaster for the service and for customers and for our members. And we also asked them on pay to confirm that it's really 9%. We said to them, if you're willing to put the 2%, which you say is worth part of the 9%, into basic pay and backdate the 3.5, then we would probably be close to settling on pay, providing the change was okay. So that would be over an 18-month deal. What they've come back with, we asked them to confirm by 2 o'clock today. What they come back with, after saying that they spent all day considering it, although they never had the courtesy to call us back, they did that via ACAS, is just unacceptable. And it just confirms really the things that we've just been talking about their fundamental issues here, to remove you from Royal Mail in place of bringing a different workforce over a period of time, and to change the whole structure of the business to just a parcel courier company. That is not the way for Royal Mail to be successful. There's better approaches where they could utilise their advantage, their natural advantage, which is you on the doorstep every day of the week. That's the way to compete, not to just try and replicate the competitors' model. So that's the latest update. We're in this, as we keep saying, for the long haul, because it's so serious. It's a really, really bitter dispute. And I'd say this to you, when you think about the way that they're treating you at the moment, and all of the difficult things, including the latest move they've made on sick pay, which is just absolutely outrageous. That type of behaviour, imagine if we didn't have the courage, and you didn't have the courage, to stand up with all of us together against what they're doing. Imagine what the future would look like if we let these people loose, and we give them agreement to things that we simply will not do, because it's not right for you, for customers, or for the future of the Royal Mail.
Thanks, Dave. That's brilliant. Got quite a few questions, so I'm probably going to plough straight into them, Andy, if that's all right, because we've obviously got a significant overview there from Dave. One of the things that you've both been talking about is the sincerity of the union in attempting to resolve a dispute. I mean, obviously I've been party to how much work you both put in, how many letters, how many meetings, etc. Whilst you were doing what you were doing today, and you were trying to get things done, We didn't get the letter, as Dave outlined there, from ACAS. Royal Mail didn't even have the courtesy to send it themselves. They didn't, it was sent via ACAS. They didn't want to meet you. But whilst you were waiting in hope of trying to resolve this dispute, I think it was about 3 o'clock, they put out a release to the press and said, this is our view on the strike. So before they sent us their counter offer, they'd already told the press that we were on strike. So ruling out an agreement. So there's a level of people working with, but I think it was about midday or so, maybe that they had a briefing on their workplace channel from MD Ricky McCauley. He said a few things, including this. I want to pick up with you first of all, Andy.
For customers, we're urging the CWU to call off the strikes. I think most people know at this time of year that is the right thing to do for our customers and for you. We also urge the CWU to stop repeating the lies that they're engaging in and to get round the table to try and resolve this dispute. If you too have had enough, as I said, come back to work. Cross the picket line, you will be supported and serve your customers.
So first thing I want to put to you there is you heard him there. It sounded pretty desperate, which is quite interesting, stuff from Ricky. But get around the table. I mean, from the employer, the front of an employer who basically you both sent them a note yesterday and said, this is, you've asked for a route to resolve this dispute. Here's a really simple route to call them off the strike action this week, giving us a period of calm to reach a full agreement. Less meeting. They didn't even have the courtesy, Andy, to meet you today. They've done their bidding via ACAS and yet telling us to get back around the table. Your views on that?
Yeah, so look, may I first of all say, Chris, that I was so immensely proud to be part of our wonderful union on Friday. That it was just a wonderful day, and it was fabulous to meet so many people. And Dave used the word overwhelmed. I was overwhelmed and choked up. It was just a fabulous day, and great to see so many of our members so enthusiastic and so determined to see this through to the bitter end. In terms of Royal Mail, I mean, you just can't make up their way they approach things. So let's get around the table. I mean, we've been making that point incessantly, publicly, on press and media, across the table with ACAS, that we are prepared to put in as many hours as need be, burn the midnight oil to thrash out a deal, because we want an agreement. But it has to be an agreement that actually moves this company forward and protects jobs and ensures there's a viable and real future for people, as opposed to this new resourcing model they want. It's cynical of Ricky McCauley to talk about get back round the bargaining table. We offered talks on Saturday, we offered talks on Sunday, we offered talks Monday and today. So, we're not having it that they're reinventing history here. In terms of, we sent a genuine offer last night. The post executive went into session for a couple of hours. We got to a position where the executive was on board with proposing a cancellation of tomorrow and Thursday if certain requirements were met around job security and pay and starting times for attendances. That's been knocked back late this afternoon, and the response has come back, which the executive has just considered, just come out of a post-executive meeting. They've unanimously rejected the response that's come back from the employer this afternoon. So two things happened before we received that response. You've highlighted them. One, they went out with a press release at 3 o'clock condemning the union, its members, and that's hardly the behaviour of a company who wants to try and find a path through this. And secondly, they were out briefing on their workplace around lunchtime with Ricky McCauley doing the narrative. It's interesting to see that that Simon Thompson seems to have gone missing in action, because he's nowhere to be seen now. He wasn't addressing the press and media on Friday. He's not doing the direct stuff on the workplace. So it is exceptionally cynical. Our position as a postal executive, the leadership of this union, is that we want to find a way forward. We want an agreement, but we can't possibly embrace what we have called the surrender document, and that's what it is. There has been one interesting movement, though. The letter that's come across this afternoon is now saying that they will commit to no compulsory redundancies until the 1st of January 2024. But the way it's written is that there will be redundancies at that point, which is the very concern that we have been highlighting. And I just, if I can, you might have these planned to ask us, Chris, but they keep on saying that we're exaggerating the job losses. We are not exaggerating the job losses. The 10,000 they announced on the 14th of October is for right sizing and for revision activity linked to decline in letter traffic primarily. What they're not taking into account with the 10,000 jobs is 5 further assaults, attacks on our members, and that's via concentrating work into the Midland hub that's not up and running yet, the closure of 4 airport hubs, the closure of between 8 and 5 mail centres, the closure of the customer service points throughout the UK, and of course this bit that Dave's already spoken about, moving to a Monday to Friday delivery operation for letters, which would save thousands and thousands and thousands of jobs. So look, we emphatically reject the accusation that we're exaggerating the job losses. They're doing the complete opposite. They're actually trying to dumb down the public number because they know the real scale of this job losses will be to decimate this industry. And that's why they're only prepared to give a no compulsory redundancy agreement to the 1st of January 2024. The one that the original position was the 31st of March next year. They've moved a bit. They moved a bit with trailblazing that with their newspaper adverts last Thursday. The fact is that they know that this is their Achilles heel because they do want a new resourcing model and our members are totally expendable in their eyes. That's something we've got to defend to right to the bitter end.
Thank you, Andy. Spot on. Loads of comments. We're going to pick up them all in a moment or so. I want to stick with Ricky for 1 second, though. Put this to Dave.
And unlike other trade unions, you don't get strike pay from your trade union, the CWU, and many of you are fed up. And we're seeing more people come back to work with every strike day. And I want you to know that if you choose to come back to work, and I give you this assurance, that you'll be able to come back to work safely. And we don't underestimate just how difficult it is to cross a picket line.
I mean, there's a number of things there, Dave, which, fantasies. But I mean, the first thing, attacking the union for not paying strike pay. I mean, deliberately, obviously, we've cleared that up. We're a national union. There's 115,000 people in dispute. We've got a welfare fund. Anyone in desperate financial straits can apply to via their branch. I mean, so he's again trying to, leverage union there. Fantasy stuff about people coming back to work. But what I felt was really distasteful is this: you can come back safely, as if the union has at any time mentioned anything like that. This is a dispute based on how angry, passionate people feel about the changes and the attacks from Royal Mail. It isn't a dispute. People are on the picket line because they're intimidated by Royal Mail, not going into work because they're intimidated by the CWLA.
Well, I mean, I think that point you make there is what's coming through loud and clear. It's what came through on Friday when we were speaking to our members who turned up in such unbelievable numbers. The stories that I was hearing, people breaking down in front of me. People who are finding the atmosphere that Royal Mail have created at work just completely unacceptable. And for Ricky McCauley to suggest that somehow the people who are making it unsafe at work is workers fighting for their jobs and the future of the service is so distasteful, so wrong. And, these people can't be trusted. I think there's a handful of people we're dealing with here. We've got to get this into context. There's about 5 or 6 people backed up by the chair of the company, Keith Williams, and probably, 1 or 2 board members. So Simon Thompson's obviously in there. This fella, Grant McPherson, we know because there are whistleblowers amongst management who are telling us, how much they're being bullied into doing certain things now. Some of them want to remain anonymous. We understand that. But that'll all come out at some point. And, the things they're doing to our members, what they, I think, don't realise is that no company could ever be successful with that type of attitude from an employer. They've gone to levels in this dispute, the likes of which we've never seen before. It makes us angry. It makes us, feel heartbroken for some of our members who are having to suffer, you know, things where they're being suspended, some people, they have done absolutely nothing wrong. And people are being suspended willy-nilly. And that's a targeted approach. They're doing that deliberately to break the spirit of the union. And, you know, I'll come back, Chris, to what I said earlier on to all of our members listening tonight. And no matter how hard this gets, you know, I'm going to say this to you again. These people and the way they're treating you as a workforce and what they see as the future of this company, if we allow them to get away with that, then, you know, we're forever have to hold our heads in shame at what we've given into, which is just downright bullying. It's not a good business plan for the future. It is a business plan that's driven by their own financial mistakes. They're trying to rectify mistakes that they've made and, you know, self-inflicted wounds. And our members cannot pay the price for that. And I promise you this, you know, we will do whatever it takes here to stop these people destroying your jobs and stop them destroying the future of Royal Mail. We're going to have a good think about this. You know, we've got a little bit of time between now and the next strikes on the 23rd and 24th. And obviously then we'll be into a period where we'll be talking about the reballot. There may be other action in January as well, you know, that we'll have to call. But we'll keep continually looking at ways on how we can change, you know, the approach from the business. And I think that does deserve a wider scrutiny from politicians now. It deserves a wider scrutiny from the public. There's a lot going on at the moment, all workers. So it's hard to elevate our one any more than others. But there's some sinister forces here working in the background. And they are not working in the interest of loyal, hard-working, decent Royal Mail workers. And when I hear people like Ricky McCauley playing them cards in front of you know, the video to try and suggest that somehow we're the ones who are not keeping people safe at work, I think our members have seen through it. I think they'll be angry, and I know they'll continue to back the union.
Spot on, Dave. So if you won't be crossing the picket line, stick no thanks Ricky in the comments now. No thanks Ricky if you'll be turning down his kind offer to safely get you across the picket line tomorrow. Someone else I wanted to say, we had a few comments from our fleet members, engineering, parcel force members. The whole session, everything you're hearing from Andy, everything you're hearing from Dave covers everyone in Royal Mail Group. This is a Royal Mail Group dispute. So if you're hearing about the importance of supporting the union, the ish tax from the company, it's relevant to every single one of you. Andy, you asked earlier on where Simon Thompson was. We found him. He was today, going to put it up on screen. Members, I'm sure, will be amused by this. In the Northwest Super Hub, doing a tour with managers around the new Northwest Super Hub. So he's up there. I noticed, interesting enough, the more observant of our members will see that he's pictured staring at a whiteboard. That seems to be the common position Simon finds himself in nowadays, isn't it? But you know, how reckless is it and irresponsible? I mean, you two are here at CWHQ, available to go to ACAS, available to go to Royal Mail headquarters, and he's waltzing around super hubs, which, let's be honest about it, isn't as a ridiculous name that he's given it, you know, part of his sort of grand projects and stuff like that. But this doesn't seem like a guy who's serious about resolving a dispute when we are, what, a few days from the end of any opportunity of Christmas post being saved.
Well, yes, this is indicative of the way that this union is being and its members are being treated. So Dave wrote to Simon Thompson last night with a genuine offer to cancel the strikes tomorrow and Thursday in return for commitments, reasonable commitments. And the letter comes back in response from his IR director, not from him. So he hasn't even got the courtesy to respond to our General Secretary. So I'm not at all surprised that he's swanning around wherever when what he should be is in the negotiations, fronting up those and leading those negotiations and reaching an agreement. On your point, Chris, about this is a Royal Mail Group dispute, but it affects every single member, no matter what you're doing. If you're processing the payroll, if you're working in the National Return Centre in Belfast, if you're in the Stamps and Collectibles unit in Talents House, Edinburgh, wherever you happen to be sitting in Royal Mail Group, whether you're fleet, engineering, parcel force, and we have lots of minority members outside of the traditional OPG grade, this dispute is impacting upon everybody. The pay is impacting upon everybody. The job security is impacting upon everybody. The changes to the whole industry, destabilising the industry, paying out millions and millions to shareholders, impacts upon everybody in Royal Mail Group. So this dispute, let's be absolutely clear, impacts upon everybody. And let's take the Parcel Force members that originally the 3.5% wasn't even going to be paid to those members. With the recent best and final offer, we've now got the 3.5% for the Parcels members. So we are doing our absolute best to get the best deal possible for all grades, irrespective of whether you work in a delivery office, a plant, wherever you happen to work. So, we need as unity and solidarity to stick together. We're all in this together, irrespective of the grade group and the role and the job that people perform. It's vitally important that we all are united and solid together. And we saw that on Friday, because we met many different grades from minorities that were there, along with the OPGs. I know we call people posties, that's a generic term for all of our members, but it's absolutely every member counts, no matter what you do.
Thank you, Andy. Brilliant. Dave, one of the things that we highlighted in the lead up to the last bout of action is how Royal Mail were using their social media. By the way, bless you for your sneeze.
Yeah.
How Royal Mail were using social media to effectively torture their own workforce, and we've seen extreme examples of that. But probably the weirdest ones is the managers who are at a level of seniority who are all of a sudden saying things that are if it wasn't so serious, you'd have to say it was comical, in terms of their lies and their mistruths. I mean, this one, I don't know the guy, Stephen Malloy. When I looked at his profile, it said he was a senior manager, and he's commenting on Ricky McCauley's video, which has been smashed to pieces by our members, hundreds and hundreds of CWU members ripping into Ricky McCauley. And Stephen Malloy says, "Great and open, honest in video. Really good to see the myth busting and real honesty. In London, we have had a significant people returning to work, which is great. Everyone has a right to choose whether they strike or return to work. And I, like Ricky, would urge people to return to work and rejoin significant numbers of colleagues who are keeping the mail moving and delivering for their customers." Couple of things, 3 things really, Dave. One, we know because one of our members posted below that I don't know the guys I said, but his brother was also a Royal Mail manager, and Mr. Malloy's brother has been visiting our picket line. So the guy can't even convince his own brother to support them, let alone bloody any of our members. The second thing is, when we were at the Mount Pleasant sorting office on the strike last Friday, when we were doing the media, the lead correspondent from the BBC came out to me and said that she'd asked Royal Mail to provide her with a postal worker who could speak on camera, who had crossed the picket line. And she was told by Ricky McCauley that this is London, people don't cross the picket line. So poor old Mr. Malloy is defending Ricky, whilst Ricky's admitting to the BBC that people in London aren't crossing the picket line. So they need to have a chat with each other. But I want to come back to the point and make the point to you, Dave, that they are now just basically openly, I don't know how to put it really, bullshitting, lying to our members and expecting them to swallow it up. I mean, people have got eyes, haven't they? They can see their mates are on the picket lines with them. They know people aren't going into work, and Royal Mail are feeling totally and utterly comfortable, just lying to them, lying to the press, and trying to basically get in their heads.
Well, that's part of the psychological kind of attack that they've launched, and it's going to continue in that sense. I mean, look, there's never been a strike where there wouldn't be some people who cross the picket line and who go back to work. What I would say about that, from what I'm seeing, is the numbers, that we've got in support of the union that have stayed right through this strike and have continued to do that are more than any other in comparison to any other strike that's going on at the moment. It is rock solid when you see, the reality of the support. You will get some who do that. And look, let's be honest, I think more than any other strike, these are not people who are going in because they agree with Royal Mail and they think that the union's wrong. It would just be down to particular, certainly, family circumstances. So, they have to consider that. They have to do that. You're entitled to ask them not to cross picket lines. But the level of support we've got here, and without any hesitation, is more than any other union currently out on strike. We've got great support. It's rock solid in all the places that you can see all the time. And all the reports we're getting back is that people are resolute They don't like what's going on. Nobody likes that. We can sense, that we want to try and find the resolution. We're determined to find a resolution. But I think our members have really worked out now that this is so much about the future of their job and the very future of Royal Mail as a company that we've all been associated with for so long, that they just can't, see any prospect of giving in to these people. And as for some of them managers, the ones who are surfacing now are like the ones who have got reputations of bullies. That is the reality. People, not for me to go into every individual detail, but some of them people you mentioned, people know they've been sacked before, only got back after appeals for bullying their own managers, and they've been unleashed. And they go about their business in a way that you wouldn't have any belief in them to really want to support a workforce. You wouldn't certainly have any belief in their plans for the future and making Royal Mail a successful future based on their plans. But most of all, they're not decent people. And, we've got to be honest about that. The members have chosen their sides. They'll continue to do that. And we'll continue to look at every conceivable way of reaching a resolution. That's our job. We're going to carry on doing that. We'll go to them again next week. We'll put positions to them. I do think we're getting to a stage where, at some point here, we've got to think about a future with a different model, other than the people who are leading this business at the moment. The quickest resolution to this would be for them to step aside and let some decent people come in the business, including, I'd have to say, time to change the governance model of Royal Mail. A company like Royal Mail shouldn't be led by the type of people that it's led by now. They've been in the business between them about 3 or 4 years, 4 or 5 of them that have come in, brought their own mates in, and they're obviously out on a mission to create a smaller business, to make profit for shareholders, and to make sure that, they change the resourcing model. They don't believe in the existing workforce. They think that our workers are never going to do what they're told in that sense, that they don't fit with their view of the future. And Royal Mail should be more honest about that, not trying to make out that they're trying to make it safe for people to return to work. So, our members won't fall for that.
Thank you, Dave. Andy, a lot of people asking when the shareholders meeting is and how we're going to apply pressure onto them.
Okay, so the shareholders meeting is planned for later this week. We're still working up the detail, but we're looking forward to that session. I think it's vitally important we can try and influence some people that can bring pressure to bear on the governance board that Dave just spoke about. In terms of your comments about let's give it the polite word. Let's call it spin, because that's the political parlance. The spin we're seeing is the acts of desperation. Let's just give you one fact. Dave talks about the action being rock solid, and it is. And our members, despite the pressures on them, on their incomes and their households and their families, are staying rock solid. You've only got to look at the fact that they moved the last posting dates for Christmas a week earlier than they were originally planned. I'm told it's the earliest they've ever been since Victorian times. So, we've now passed the last posting date for second class mail. Later this week is the first class mail, and we've seen the backlogs of mail. And I'm told that, and I've seen some images of this, that there's been many Yorks, the big cages that stores the mail, that has been out in the open in the snow, and lots of those packages and what have you will be ruined and certainly damaged. And that's because of the backlogs and because Royal Mail have not addressed this dispute in a serious way. We wouldn't be having that damaged those goods and items had we had a settlement and a way forward. So the responsibility lies at their door. Look, I mean, then we've seen the situation where only today they've acknowledged that they're going to pay the 200 quid bonus, which they're obliged to do by agreement. But they, in a nasty way, they say, well, we're going to claw back 3% of the £100 for each day strike action. I mean, look, how petty is that? It costs them more money to administer that clawback. It's just more and more punishment charters, and we've seen things like removing vending machines from the workplace as well, I mean, just look, this is a management out of control, and the only way we can deal with this is by keep on delivering great numbers in the strikes. And I'm absolutely convinced that our members will be as rock solid tomorrow and Thursday as they were last Friday.
Thank you, Andy. Spot on, buddy. Dave, one of the things, before I give you a chance to both to sum up, that, you know, we've seen like over the sort of months here, like lows that perhaps, you know, having all invested a significant chunk of our lives in the company and in the industry, we had perhaps thought we wouldn't see. And each time there's been a new low. This week, though, we've got members with COVID. We've got members who are seriously ill. We've got members who are really, really sick, who are in work right now because they're being told, if you go sick, basically we're assuming that you're trying to dodge the strike, and so we're not sick paying you until you get us a doctor's note to prove, and then we'll reinstate your sick pay. I mean, like, sickening levels of, again, I mean, the heartening thing of that, I suppose, is it shows how desperate they are. They know they're losing the hearts and minds. They've lost the hearts and minds. They've lost the dressing room. They're losing the dispute. But what an attack. We've got, like, I know someone who rang up this week into the office and was talking to us, who's got COVID and has got the test and stuff, and now is in work spreading that because she's in fear and hasn't had time to go to the doctors and basically can't afford to lose that pay on top of her strike pay. This is like criminal type activity from Royal Mail here, Dave.
Well, I think, you know, I've said it before on the media, and I'll mention it again tomorrow. This is the most savage and brutal attack that any group of workers have had to face from an employer, I think, in decades and decades in this country. It's on a scale with a workforce, you know, one of the biggest workforces in the country. Only 18 months ago, everybody was singing the praises of our members for keeping, you know, Royal Mail going, for keeping the country connected. And Royal Mail is a huge part of keeping the economy moving. And, you know, part of that is to see it as a company that should have really high standards. And what we've got in place now is basically, you know, there's no other way of saying this, some of the nastiest people who have got their own interests at heart, and they're being pretty blunt about this, by the way. You know, all they're interested in is making sure that the shareholders keep them in post. And that's why that meeting that Andy spoke about earlier on, that will take place later this week, is important for us, because we have to put the other side of that story. We have to explain that no company can be successful with that type of management at the top. And I do think there will be a moment when some of these people go. Probably the reality is whilst we're in the middle of a dispute, you know, they're not gonna get rid of them straight away. But they must realise now that these levels of attacks that they're putting on people are creating anxiety and stress in a way that, you know, it's unforgivable. And you use the word criminal. You know, we are looking to talk to our lawyers now. We have spoken to our lawyers, and we're going through a whole range of cases that people are facing, conduct charges, spurious charges, totally made up charges. And we're saying to them that surely the law can't support this type of activity. And I would say the same about their latest move on sick pay. You know, we've got to never forgive these people for what they're doing, and they've got to understand that they'll never be successful if you don't take the workforce with you. And these people have lost the workforce forever. And on that note alone, you know, they should do the right thing, and they should move on out of Royal Mail. We should be bringing in people who can run the business, knowing that they've already got a great workforce. That's something, by the way, that we've alluded to before about a different model, and I've said it again earlier on today, and I promise you again, you know, we're going to return to that subject, because we are doing some work in the background about a different governance model for Royal Mail, and getting different people interested who would actually see what our members do day in, day out as an advantage, and not wanting to just become the competitor. So, you know, let's see how that moves forward. That'll be one of the things that we push harder on once we get through the Christmas period. But look, you know, our heart goes out to our members who are facing those type of attacks. Don't ever think, no, that's the worst part of this, is knowing that the way they're treating you in the workplace and then having to face the same people across the table who are not honest people. They've shown no integrity in the way they go about their business. I think you can tell by the way we're talking, although we restrain ourselves, how angry we are at the way they're treating you. And that's why we will never walk away from this dispute. We'll never give in to these type of people. They do not deserve to be running a great company like Royal Mail. Thank
you, Dave. Andy, both of you really, actually just give you a minute or so just to get your final messages over to the member ahead of the 48-hour strike action they face. We're going to be on the picket lines earlier, lots of media. I know you're travelling to Scotland the following day, Andy, to do a big rally up there with our Scottish branches alongside Davy Robertson. Dave, we're going to be out and about solidly smashing in the media for 2 days and engaging members as well. Final messages, Andy, on the need to deliver the biggest picket lines and supporters we possibly can tomorrow and keep up the stunning level of support for strike action, Andy.
Yeah, look, if I may take this opportunity to have a shout out for our post office members that have been on strike yesterday and today in Crown offices and admin over a pay dispute, and our supply chain members are also out on strike tomorrow as well. So this is a long-running post office dispute where action first took place back on the 3rd of May. We reballoted recently and got 2 yes votes over 90% again. So great, amazing support from our post office members, and so a big thank you to each and every one of them for their continued struggle. We will get a deal for them as well. You mentioned the Scottish Rally. We're really looking forward, Davy Robertson and I, National Officer, to attend. We're flying up to Scotland tomorrow night, and we will be outside the Scottish Parliament with our Scottish membership. Obviously we won't have the same numbers as last Friday, but I'm certain we're going to get a great turnout from our Scottish members there. And indeed, if any of our English members want to come up across the border from the north, east and northwest of England, I'm certain they'd be welcome as well. So that's the Scottish Rally on Thursday. We are reballoting. We announced that at the rally last Friday. We published the details of that. We're going to serve notice on the 16th of January. The ballot papers will be dispatched on the 23rd of January. So look, this dispute is not just for Christmas, it's beyond that, unfortunately, and the blame for that lies with Royal Mail. Look, in terms of, you've got to ask yourself the question, how low can these people possibly stoop? Can they become more despicable than what they actually are? And it's difficult to actually comprehend how appalling the way they are treating our members, and that's why the reason for it is they're trying to drive people out of this industry. They're trying to drive the expertise, the knowledge, the commitment, the dedication, people that are passionate about the service. They're trying to drive you out of the industry, and that's why there's been such a big take up for the VR, the voluntary redundancy, despite the inferior terms to our agreement. So look, we got to stay strong. We got to stay determined. We got to stay resilient. Just on this point, every single member of the postal executive loses pay, as indeed do the officers when our members are on strike. So we are also in this with you. So we just really want to kill any myths about that. Look, this is tough. We recognise this is particularly this time of year. I heard a member say to me that it's chicken soup for Christmas, not turkey. And they were prepared to make that sacrifice and do that. And the reason they're prepared to do that is they said to me they want a fight to ensure they got a future, a job, a livelihood, and a pension in the future. And they want that continued job security that they've always had. And unfortunately, it's not there at the moment with the attitude of Royal Mail. Royal Mail really should hang their heads in shame and realise they can't carry on treating our members, their loyal workforce, so abominably. Look, thank you everything for all your support, everyone, each and every one of you. We are amazed by your commitment and dedication. We will win this dispute, but unfortunately it is going to take more action tomorrow, Thursday, and almost definitely next Friday and Christmas Eve. So once again, thank you. And last point, we are accountable, we are responsible, and we are prepared to meet with the members time and time again and address your concerns via our communications channels. That's not the case with the likes of Ricky McCauley and co, who actually hide behind their workplace platform, spinning and misrepresenting a situation that's fundamentally not true. We know that you're going to be determined. In terms of the picket lines, keep the good humour, keep the spirits up high, keep the respect and dignity. Please don't put yourself in a position where they can find all manner of spurious reasons to suspend you or take you out of the game, because that's what's been going on with a number of our, I think we're approaching something like nearly 100 of our members and reps have now been suspended for so-called picket line infringements, which is ridiculous. And in the scheme of things, with 1,500 pickets every single time, 24/7 in many cases, it's just a small percentage, but they are targeting people. So please, stay cool and calm, and ensure that you show dignity and respect on the picket line, but also good humour. And I know there is good humour, because everywhere I go, everybody's in extremely high spirits. So thanks very much, everybody. Look forward to catching up with our members in Scotland on Thursday morning.
Thank you, Andy. Brilliant. Dave, final word.
Yeah, I mean, look, we've covered all of the points really, as to why, we all know this is a really tough dispute at the moment, and we've got no choice but to keep on going. What the employer wants is something that we can never give them, which is a completely different resourcing model that abandons a loyal workforce, hard-working, decent people who have stood by this company, because they also believe in the service. And the other thing they want is they want to end that service. And all of these proposals that they're putting, once you sort of clear away the odd bit here and there, you can see the reality of that. Our members know the reality of that. And whenever the union puts something back to the employer, the fact that they can't sign up to the sort of things we're asking tells you that that's where they're heading. We can never agree that. So we've got to see this through. What I'd say to our members is that, you've got to look beyond just Christmas now, because the reality of this position is that the company, they'll be wanting to introduce their change, and they'll never be successful without the members and the union being on board with that change. And we've got to be ready for that part of this dispute. We're going to be looking at other ways of dealing with that as well. We'll come out and talk to you about that. Most important thing now is to see the strikes through, take each strike tomorrow, the day after. We'll come back to you and communicate again before the 23rd and 24th of December. We'll continue to do everything we can do to try and find a resolution. The public are with us. Last Friday showed the public are with us. And my final point to you would be, when you're facing the type of individuals at the top of a business that are behaving in this way, who have created a climate of fear in the workplace, the only answer to that, there's only one answer, and that is to continue to have the courage to stand with all of your fellow workers, with the union, because we're right here, what we're arguing for. We want a decent future for Royal Mail, for its customers, for the workers, and for the company. And if you do that, we'll come out this. Our collective strength will see us through. And I know you're going to be with us. Thanks very much.
Brilliant, Dave. Thank you, Andy. Thank you, Dave, for your time. More importantly, thank you to the 17,000 of you who have come on with very little notice. Some of you no notice. To hear from Andy and Dave means a lot to us. See you on the picket lines tomorrow, everyone. Massive, massive turnouts. Get your photos in, get your videos in, and get behind the union. Stick together, everyone. Good night.